So, I want to talk a little bit about what the Nazarene Cipher actually is. Simply stated, the Nazarene Cipher is a piece of art and a written manuscript. The artwork was created over the course of 7 years. The piece stands 13 feet tall and 6 feet wide and features 186 illustrated panels. I used a number of different materials, including wood, sculptured clay, costume jewelry, paper mache, glass, bone, stone, metal, pearls, animal hide, and gold leaf. The work is dimensional and juxtaposes flat, painted surfaces against raised sculptural elements, some which rise more than 2 inches above the surface. It's composed of 3 sections, each carved from maple wood, and these 3 sections slot together and hang on the wall as a single object. Most of the smaller wooden panels are 12 centimeters square and meticulously handcrafted and painted. The entire piece weighs over 125 pounds. Over those 7 years of painting, sculpting, and crafting, I also began writing a manuscript to support and elucidate the many facets of the work. At the time, this seemed like a natural and integral extension of the overall creative process. 3 years after the completion of the piece, I had finished the book. I then set about whittling a 500,000-word colossus down to a 120,000-word document. The manuscript draws upon 2,000 years of church history, theology, Christian symbolism, and art, as well as my own personal insight, education, and experience. So a little bit about why I would create such a thing. I've always been fascinated with comparative religion, and most specifically the connection between Christianity and Judaism. It's so amazing to me how these 2 great religions are fundamentally so close in character and ideology, but historically have been so distant from each other. After all, Jesus was a Jew who was raised in a Jewish household and was following the traditions and customs of his forefathers. Everything he did, said, believed were rooted within that framework. It's almost impossible to interpret his actions and teachings without having some understanding of these dynamics. So in 1995, I decided to create an art piece that explored this idea. The notion that Judaism gave birth and was the fertile soil where Christianity grew up from. For the first few hundred years, Christianity was seen, at least by its followers and the Roman authorities, as a sect or splinter group within Judaism. Then in 325, after Constantine's declaration that Christianity would be the state religion, the 2 parties began to grow separately, and Christianity truly began to gain its own identity. So with this in mind, the overriding symbol that I use to represent this relationship is the tree. At the bottom of the cipher, we find the root system, which explores the foundational doctrine and customs of both religions. For Judaism, it sheds light upon such things as the sacrificial system, the understanding of what the Messiah represents, the essential traditions of the written and oral codes, and the Shema, the most foundational and beloved Jewish prayer. For Christianity, it uncovers such topics as grace, the distinction between the Old and New Covenants, and the importance of the resurrection. Then, when we look at the trunk of the tree, or the middle section of the piece, we learn about the person of Jesus of Nazareth, his life, death, and resurrection, and also the person and ultimately the nation of Israel, its birth, ups and downs, and symbolic resurrection with its rebirth and establishment of the State of Israel, May 14, 1948. This middle section takes a deep dive into exploring ancient Jewish rituals, symbolism, and religious holidays, and compares them to how Christianity reinterprets them in light of the person and work of Christ. Then, when we look at the upper section of the Nazarene Cipher, we see the branches, the leaves, and the fruit produced by both religions. This fruit is expressed through 3 concentric circles: the cloud of witnesses, the circle of prophets, and the circle of disciples. The first and outermost circle is known as the cloud of witnesses. It features many significant characters from the Chumash, which is otherwise known as the Jewish Bible, or what Christians now term as the Old Testament. These people all played some important role in God's divine master plan. From the patriarchs like Abraham and Isaac, to the judges like Gideon and Samson, to the kings like David, Solomon, and Amaziah. These start at the bottom left, around the 7 o'clock position, and then move clockwise, and except for a few instances, they are presented in chronological order. The second and middle circle is known as the Ring of Prophets. These represent prophets who were also featured in the Chumash, or Old Testament. They start at the bottom left, around the 8 o'clock position, and move around in a clockwise direction. They also move in chronological order, beginning with the prophet Elijah and ending with Malachi. These prophets are subdivided into 4 groups: the early prophets, like Elisha and Elijah; the Assyrian prophets, like Joel and Amos; the Babylonian prophets, like Nahum and Jeremiah; and finally those who preached during the Babylonian exile, prophets like Daniel, Ezekiel, and Zechariah. The third and final circle is known as the Ring of Disciples, or Talmidim in Hebrew. These are closest to the seated figure of Jesus and represent the 12 disciples who were handpicked to assist him in his ministry. These panels start at the 6 o'clock position and then move around in a clockwise direction. They include the 11 direct disciples like Simon Peter, Matthew, James, and John, but also notable characters like Paul, John the Baptist, and Mary. At the very center and surrounded by the circle of disciples is the glorified Christ panel. This large elliptical image of Yeshua sitting enthroned is heavily influenced by the ancient iconographic symbol of the Pantokratos, which portrays Christ as the sovereign ruler over all creation. The piece also attempts to expand the understanding of the second person of the Divine Trinity. Here, he is represented in aspects of his pre-incarnation, incarnation, and post-incarnation. I hope this sheds a little light on the Nazarene Cipher, what it is, how and why it was created. So moving forward, basically, whenever you watch a video of an individual piece on this channel, I'm showing you the artwork that was created for that particular character, symbol, or theme, and then I'm also reading the accompanying text from the Nazarene Cipher manuscript. I really appreciate those of you who've already subscribed to this channel, and ask if you haven't yet to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to gain full access to the online version of the Nazarene Cipher, please follow the link in the comment section below. Thanks again for spending your time with me. Take care.